Lecture. We have been programmed to think that this is a bad word, something you should never do, and I completely disagree. There are actually some real and important benefits of lecturing if it's done in the right way, and the attempt to abandon the strategy while making it a bad word has not been a good thing for our classrooms. But let me back up just a little bit. A handful of years ago, people started talking about the importance of getting students to use 21st century skills like collaboration, critical thinking, creative problem solving, and communication. The same people also expressed the importance of getting students to use technology. Some said that we should focus on those things so that students are prepared for this brand new world where mastery of 21st century and technology skills will be necessary for success. So, those who started pushing for more 21st century skills and technology in the classroom saw lecture as the biggest hurdle to overcome. They would suggest that lecture is the most inefficient and ineffective method of delivering information to students. They would argue that delivering information through lecture takes up the bulk of time in many classrooms, leaving little or no time to have students work on 21st century or technology skills. Thus, they determined lecturing is bad and everyone should stop doing it. So began a smear campaign to tear down the lecture, which brings us back to where I started. Lecturing is not bad. By jumping to the conclusion that it is, we miss a step. I would agree that the way that many teachers are currently lecturing is inefficient and ineffective. I would also agree that the way that many teachers are currently lecturing takes up too much class time, not leaving enough to build other skills. It would seem the logical conclusion would be to look into changing the way that we are doing lecture, not just demonizing it. It would also be logical to look closely at why we are lecturing in order to fully understand what we are setting fire to here. So, why do we lecture? Well, many teachers do it because it's a way to deliver a large amount of information to students. It does take a lot of class time to do this, and it's not very efficient or effective. But why else might teachers do it? Well, many teachers lecture to establish themselves as a knowledgeable adult in the room regarding the content, to prove to their students that they are a master of this information. Now that's interesting. They lecture to establish trust with their students and their education community. And based on research, students trusting a teacher's intentions and methods is a critical piece for establishing student-teacher relationships, which can lead to student success. I can identify with this. I lectured to impress my students, and others if they were in the room, with my knowledge about economics. The absolute last thing I would ever want is for my students to leave my room and say, "Mr. McCammon is cool, but he does not really know anything about economics." I would never want my community members to say, "Mr. McCammon is a nice guy, but he does not know anything about what he's teaching." I want the exact opposite. I want my community to think of me as a knowledgeable and trusted source of information. You know, what a teacher used to be. Demonizing lecture as a whole sends a message to teachers that knowing and explaining content is not really that important. That's a dangerous and destructive message for the relationships that we are trying to build. Every teacher should know their content well enough to explain it, and every teacher should explain their content to their students in their own unique way in order to establish themselves as a trusted and knowledgeable source of information. However, we are back at our original problem. The current way we are lecturing is quite inefficient and ineffective, and it takes up way too much class time. So let's change the way that we are lecturing. Recording and publishing lecture content is a better way to lecture. It's efficient. A recorded lecture using a simple method like this ends up being a fraction of the time of a live lecture. Many times, 60 minutes of live lecture can be condensed to a 10 to 15 minute lecture video. It's effective. Students can view the recorded published video lecture as many times as they need in order to process the information. And it takes up less class time if the lecture videos are viewed in the classroom because the lectures are more efficient, or even no class time if they are viewed outside of the classroom. And most importantly, it does a really great job at building trusts and relationships with students and the community. Each teacher would be online, on demand, and a published master of their content, a trusted source of the content who can be accessed by students, community members, and the world. So let's stop demonizing the lecture. Lecturing can be incredibly valuable if we simply change the way we do it.